Okay, so casting one. Okay. This is what I did last year for the Fab Academy. It was my first time using the machinable wax for carving and milling a mold. And because I already did a lot of time rubber molding, but I'd never used the machinable wax, so I never used a CNC milling machine to do it. And you have the link for my page. Okay, so the first thing I started with was a model, a 3D model I downloaded from Thingiverse. So I didn't do this at the first time, but then I realized that it was, I mean, I looked at it and I understood that like this, you could never mold it, but you could never mill it just in one cut. And so one thing you have to do is to decide what are you going to do. So what is your 3D model? What's your final product? And looking at it, you have to understand a way, first of all, to mill it on the wax, and then to make a good working mold from it. So look at this model, you have the bomb, and then you have this tail of the bomb. And I decomposed into pieces, and this is what I came out with. So in the process of doing this, I just discarded the model from Thingiverse and I did my own from scratch. And I would have saved a lot of time doing it from the beginning. Because when you download something from Thingiverse or any other place on the internet, it's usually an STL, so it's mesh, and it's much more difficult to work with STL, so with mesh instead of NURBS. So I just cut the main body of this bomb, and I detached the tail. So the tail is consisting of all, you only have vertical walls, and so the milling bit can go straight down and mill everything. The same thing for the body of the bomb. You can reach all the parts of the bomb with a vertical milling bit. So there are no undercuts. Okay, and also these two parts. Can I move this? No. Also, these two parts are symmetrical. So in the end, I will just mill one of the two parts and make two molds out of it. So I will have a completed one. And this is the 3D model of the mold I did. So I just took the wax block, the measurements. I took them and I put them into Rhino. And then I just using the Boolean differences, subtract, adding, I did this mold. As you can see, I left a wall on the side because this is where all the empty part is where my silicone rubber is going to fill everything. And I put the body of the bomb with this side connected to the wall, because in this part would be the hole where I will put my resin in it. Okay, so it will be, in the end, it will result in a hole in the mold where I can put the resin. So this part of the mold is a 2-valve mold, so it's 2 halves. And so you have to do two parts of it. I mean, you have to mold it twice. So you will have 2 halves that you can connect together later. For this purpose, I put these little cylinders here, which are called registration keys. And the one that goes out will go inside the one that goes down. So it's just like a lock to put it in place when you put the two halves together. This part of the mold instead is just a one side, one part mold. So you just put resin in it, you turn it, and then you add the hole for the resin to go in. So carving the mold in the wax, I put it on the. I have to use the ShopBot to do it. So a large format CNC milling machine. First of all, you have to lock the block in place, because it will move, of course, because the mill will put a pressure on the side of the block. So you have to block it with I use pieces of wood over a sacrificial wooden layer. And also underneath the block there is a double-sided tape, because I was concerned of the up-cut mill maybe taking up the block, okay? Because while it turns, it puts the stuff out, and so I was concerned of the block moving out. Yeah.
Don't you think that just double-sided tape is enough?
No, because it gets a lot of pressure on sides, okay, left and right.
Because when we cut wood with double-sided tape, this is the mainstay. But maybe it's because it's, I don't know.
Just to be sure, I just added this thing. It was just 8 screws, and it was very, very fast. And also, it's because the wax, I was not sure that the double-sided tape would really stick to the wax as it does with the wood. Because the wax, I mean, in the end, it's not very sticky. I mean, you can stick anything to it. Okay, so this is the first roughing cut I did. In this case, I used a very large bit, a 6mm bit, to save time. But doing this, I also had to do it because we didn't have the suitable 3mm bit for this job. So I mean, there were problems, and the result is that, as you can see in this part, for example, or here in this part, the 6mm bit was too large to go all the way and separating the part from the wall. Okay. Also in the registration key, here, and in this part. So after the roughing cut, I had a lot of material still there, and it was too much for the finishing cut to remove, and that's why this happened. So as you can see here, I break my milling bit. It was just stuck. It went, as it began, it went down, and it was just stuck into the registration keys because it was too much for the milling bit to carve at the same time. Okay, so break the ball nose mill, and after that I had problems with the, I mean, I just went and turned the machine off because I was scared of destroying it. So I lost the zero, I lost the Z, everything, and so this was a problem in the finishing cut I did later. As you can see, you have a lot of problems with alignment here. This part was good, came out good, because the milling bit did this part good, but then when it arrives here, it breaks. So this part, as you can see, there are misalignment. Then I also try to smooth the surface using a flame, just to trying to smooth the surface, but I did too much, and that's why here I just melt the wax. So okay, I was not happy with the result, but this is just to show you how many problems you can have. Then I started to make a mold out of it, and as you can see now, this picture is taken after the first mold, so it's a little the mold here is destroyed, but it's still okay. I mean, you can figure it out. This part of the mold was made with a brush-on technique, where you don't completely put only rubber on it. I mean, you don't put only rubber because maybe you want to save some rubber, because the rubber is the thing that costs more than everything. So I just applied a thin layer, not thin, like a 2 millimeter layer of rubber on the first side, and then I added gypsum, or it could have been, how do you call it, fiberglass or any other material that is hard. Okay, so in this case you have a soft like glove of rubber, and then sorry.
Roman did lose us.
So, but we are still online. We are. Try to tell him to recognize, or otherwise, anyway, I'm recording this. So you have a glove of rubber, and then an hard part like an armor, and you have to do this thing twice. So you have the two sides of the mold, and in this part I just poured silicone rubber and to fill completely the object. But I had to rise a little bit the walls with tape, because I didn't think that, as I can show you, this part here, the top part, is at the same level as the block. So you will not have enough room for the silicone to make a layer for the first layer. Okay. So in the end, this is the result. This one on the top right is the mold that was just one side. So as you can see, when you have to do the cast, you just take the resin, put it inside, and pour it until it reaches the level, the top level, and then stop. On the other side, you can see the two halves of the mold, and you have, I made this rubber mold, and then I put some wood around it, like a wooden box, and that was containing the gypsum. So it's just to have a glove of rubber, just as I said before, with surrounded by a structure, okay? Some structure that can help you to put the mold back together. But I mean, this was just something more, but I could have used only rubber, just a block of rubber, 2 centimeter of rubber, it would have been good, the same way. But this was made so that these two halves can go one on top of the other, close completely the mold. The registration keys were not very good in the end. And this part here is the hole where you can put the resin in. And this is the result. As you can see, you have the parting line here. It's very visible because it was made with the ball nose milling bit. So you have a radius on the side, okay? And this part is the thing that goes out from here. And this thing was achieved with rotational casting. So I just closed the mold, I put some resin in it. No, I didn't fill it with resin, just put some resin, close the mold. I put like a tip here, and then I rotated the mold until the resin hardened only on the side. And then you take this one, maybe you file a little bit, you sand a little bit this part, and it goes inside here, and you have the completed object. I will show you very fast the, where is it? I will show you Where did I put it? Maybe here. Okay, let me tell him that I am. Where is it? Here. Okay, this is the video from the machine that I made last year as a final project. So you can see you have to take part A and part B of resin, put it inside the mold. Okay, you can see that same mold, put in a teeth and close it. So this one is the mold that I showed you before with the wall around it. This is just, I mean, I did the wall thing, the wooden wall, the wooden box, just to make it better to go inside the machine. Okay, so the machine rotates. It not only rotates on one axis, but also inside on another axis. So you have the resin going everywhere around it. Then you take the mold after like 15 minutes and you open it, and you have you see the bomb. You like 5 minutes the resin to become hard, and then maybe you want to wait a little longer, because even if it's done, it's cured, it's still a little gummy, you know, a little soft. So when you touch it, maybe you move it and you have your finger on it. Okay, so this is the working with the wax, but we can also do other things like this. Presentazione. Okay, I can't move this. Right. Okay, so something to show you, some job that I did in the past, and also something that I did for Fab Academy last year with this technique that is called cold casting. Okay, so this was an object that I was making, and I wanted to do copies of it. So I just started with, I mean, instead of having a block of blocks and a machine carving it from a 3D model, you can just design whatever you want. This thing was my design, and I just cut it in plastic, sheets of plastic and plastic tube, and added filler to it. I mean, it was just an object I did. You can also take, I don't know, a toy or any other object you have, something you buy, but beware of, I mean, if you are going to copy something that you don't own, maybe someone can tell you that you are doing something bad with copyright, blah blah. And this thing is in the non-official world proper making, which is making objects for the movies, for cinemas, and for replicas for collectors. This thing is very, very bad, and it's called recasting. If I spend like a year making this thing, starting from scratch, and then I spend a lot of money to do the mold and blah, 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 and then I sell it, and then someone take it, copy it, and sell it for his own, then this guy is the worst that can happen, okay? So, and you will be called a recaster, and this is the worst thing. So one way to do a two-half mold is to take your object and use clay to surround the object until the middle of the object. Okay, so you have this parting line that you can decide. In this case, I just put it in the center of the object, but a clever way to do it, a more clever way to do it, would be to put the parting line on the edge, on the side of the object here. This way, the flashing would be very easy to remove. Instead of being on a large surface, it would be on the edge. So it would be much easier. But for this object, I just did center normal thing. And as you can see, this was part of the object, and I used this part to go to the side. So as you can see here, I added some clay that reached the wall of the wooden box I did. So this would be the place where the hole where I could pour the resin in the mold. Also, I added with the bottom of a pencil some again registration keys to make the two halves of the mold stick together and stay in place together to match. But it didn't really work well, but I will show you later. The first thing, the thing I do all the time is to brush the first layer, even if I'm not doing the brush on technique, but I'm doing a block of rubber, like in this case, as you can see, this is all rubber. I didn't use any armor made of gypsum, blah, blah, blah. And it is something you can, I mean, I suggest you to do. Anyway, I just put some rubber with a brush on it, so I can go into the fine detail here, and I will be sure that there are no bubbles, because I see it. I can see there are no bubbles. Okay. Otherwise, you are never sure if there are bubbles or not. And it's, I mean, if you don't have a vacuum chamber, it's not easy to take the bubbles out. And even if you do the agitating thing, like the, how do you call it? It's not sure that the bubbles will go out. If it's stuck in a fine detail, it will stay there. So I always brush the first layer, and then I put the rubber on it. But you have to remember, okay, then to do the second half, you take this wooden box, you open the box, you turn it, you remove the clay, because the clay comes out very easily, and then you have the other half of the mold, and you can do the same thing. Brush the rubber on it, and then put the rubber on it. But you have to remember to use the molding, like a spray or the molding box or anything. Otherwise, the rubber will stick to the other side. Because the rubber doesn't stick to anything. It can be removed from any material, but not from another silicone rubber. And so this is what happened. Okay, as you can see, all the nice registration keys I did are gone because I had a block of rubber, and I had to go with a knife and cutting it to open it. Okay, because I didn't use the molding agent. And this is the result, the cast made of urethane resin. Okay, so you pour it this way in this hole, and it's pretty easy. Okay, now I will show you another exercise I did last year for Fab Academy, and it's just one part mold, so it's very easy. I started with a 3D printing, but with an SLS stereolithography machine, so I can achieve a very, very nice detail with this, because I wanted to do jewelry with this film. Okay, so this is the head of a Star Wars guy, okay, a Jedi. So I printed it on, okay, no, first I downloaded the object, I turned it into meshes, blah, blah, I worked with it, I made the side flat, and so I had to take care of how the model would come out. Then I printed it, and then I built the mold box, just using very poor material that I had in the lab. So just a block of MDF and some pieces of cardboard. You just make the box with the hot glue gun, put the your object inside with the double-sided tape, and you're ready to put resin in it, rubber in it. So to mix the silicone rubber, first of all, you take your the container with your rubber and you stir it. So the first thing you stir it. Oh, we tell the guys to talk a little not so loud. Okay, so we take the silicone rubber, so we stir it alone. I mean, without mixing anything. Okay, because the rubber stays on a shelf. You have this thing that is called shelf time. Okay, so it can be a year or anything, but during this time, the rubber separates in its components. So you will see when you open a new box, you have the rubber on the bottom, and then you have like a transparent liquid on top. It's like an oil, and you have to mix it very well. Then you take the rubber and you weight it on a balance. And in this case, it was 50 grams. And in my this rubber I used, I had 5 to 10 ratio, 5 to 100. So it was like 100 grams, 5 grams. Okay, so it's 105. But you have to check it on the how do you call it, the data sheet of the material.
Arnaud, est-ce que vous tenez genre un quart d'heure comme
and so you take the mixing the agent that you use to cure the rubber. It's called hardener. Usually you call hardener. You can call it catalyst or any other name. And usually it is colored. And this way, when you add it, you can see the difference in color, and so you will see when the color, I mean, when all the rubber gets the same color and you don't have marks or stripes in it, you are sure that you are mixing it well. Okay. One thing you have to always do is, first of all, to choose a container, a mixing bowl that, I mean, the thing you use to mix should have the surface should be plain, smooth, and not like this with all these ridges. Like this is a plastic glass. Okay, so this thing is bad because you have all this rubber sticking on it. Okay, so you're not sure you're mixing it well, because the first you have to do always is to scrape the side of the mixing container you're using, because in the side you always have unmixed rubber. Okay, I will show you this later, but remember to go around the sides, the walls of the mixing container. Okay, after that, first of all, a little brushing the rubber for the first layer on it, so I was sure there were no bubbles and I was reaching all the details. Then I put the rest of the rubber on it. I waited for a day, and then I demolded it. So just crash the mold because it was just paper mold, and take the master. And when you are using something that you only have one and you are doing a mold out of it, you call this thing a master. So the master is the initial thing that you use and that you have only one. Okay, and then you have the mold, which is the rubber one, and then all the copies are called casting. Okay, so in this case, this is the master. This is the one that came out from the 3D printer. Then instead of just putting resin in it, I wanted to do like a fake jewel. So I wanted it to look like metal. Instead of using metal, because you need high temperature, you need the right metal, you need rubber that is resistant to high temperature, blah, blah, blah. I did this thing that is called cold casting, okay? So it's like cold metal casting. You use aluminum powder for it, or any other metal powder. Remember always to use a mask for your respiration during when you use a metal powder, because metal powder is very, very thin and it can get in your lungs and it's bad. So you just take a little bit of it and put it into the mold. And then you agitate the mold. It's like you would do with a pan with oil, with butter and flour, okay, to make a cake, to cook a cake. You just put a little powder on it and you take away the excess. This way we will have a first layer of pure aluminum, pure metal, and it will increase the finish very much later. Then you take your resin, and to achieve a good result, you should use like a translucent resin with some black ink inside, and you can also put some metal powder in it. But really, the big thing is the first layer of metal that you put on the mold. In this case, I just did this easy wooden thing to hold this part. This part was I bought it at a cheap shop for jewelry, and it's for cufflink for your shirt. And I put a lot of the end of it is inside the mold here, and so it was like encapsulated into the resin. Okay. So this is the result as it come out from the mold, and you can see it's dull because you just have the pure aluminum here. Then you use a finishing, polishing. How did I call it? Fabric disc. It's important that it's made of fabric and not made of any other material, because with other materials it gets hot and you burn the resin. With fabric, the temperature is low and you don't burn the resin. Okay, this thing is the same for like acrylic or plexiglass. Okay, you should use fabric not to increase the temperature when it turns, because I use it on a drill bit. And this is the finished part with as you can see, my hands are black from the powder, and it was a very nice result. This for a wedding. Yeah, because me and my friend, we were very we liked Star Wars, so I used this cufflink for a wedding. And in the end, you have this thing. You can read it later if you want. Is the step-by-step to make the cold casting, but just something more. I mean, nobody wants you to do the cold casting.
What thing did you? What thing did you use? Just the last part of the thing?
Yeah, this part you put this part on one side of the shirt, and this part you can move it. You can go up and down. So it's just one side.
Okay, but inside the head of
the inside the head, there is like the end of this stuff here. There's a disc.
Okay.
That usually you use it to solder.
You use the initial disc of the cufflink.
Yeah, but it was like just a plain one. I had it in I bought it in a like jewelry shop for guys who make jewelry. So it was just a plain one. Okay. Okay, and this is the end of this this thing. You can find it later online. I wanted to show you this thing just to show you. This is the Smooth On website, and the Smooth On website is full of tutorials and pictures and videos, so you can find anything on this website, because as we said yesterday, Smooth On is the leader and also in the film industries, and they only use smooth-on products. I found that smooth-on sells good products, but they are very, very expensive. And I have my own dealer in Italy, and it's the same we used. So in this case, they are doing a complex model. They are doing it in different parts, but I want to go to the part where they brush the, here you can see they are putting a layer of rubber on it, just brushing it with a brush. So they are doing what I showed you before, like a glove of rubber. And in the end, so they keep doing it for like many times until it goes, I mean, it's thick.
Why is it of different colors? It's because it's dry or not?
No, because it depends on the additive you use.
Okay.
Sometimes you want to use different colors to distinguish the different layer you are doing, so you can see how thick you are going.
Okay.
And then also when it's wet, like it's this color, and then when it hardens, it changes a bit. So okay, that they're doing more and more things. Too complex for us, but then I wanted to show you. Okay, this is the end of the rubber, and then they are building an armor around it, made with, here maybe we can see. So they are building like a parting line where they will have the two halves of this armor, because in this case, as you saw before, I made two halves of the mold, and the rubber was also in two halves. In this case, they're doing just one glove of rubber, and the armor is in two halves, so it will be easy to open. I mean, otherwise you can't open if you're using the armor in just one piece. You need a two half for the armor using the release agent. Let's go to the part where you can see here the thing that they are doing with this armor. They are using like a dry stone thing with some fiberglass in it, some fiberglass, just stripes of fiberglass. And so you can see there is the left part and the right part, and this is the contact part. And you can also put like screws to hold it. And in the end, they will have something. Let me see if here. Okay. So in the result is, you see, this is the rubber glove. This is one side of the armor. This is the part that goes inside the mouth. Okay, because they need to do it in a different part, because otherwise they could not take out of the mouth of this lion or animal. And then this is the glove of rubber that you just take it out in one piece, and it's very, I mean, it's elastic. You can stretch it very much. So this is something you use for large format molding, okay? And it's also something you use when you want to do, like, I don't know, some historical thing, like, I don't know, in the museum or in arts. Maybe you have, I don't know, a column of a church, an old one, and you need to do a copy of it. It's not charging, that's okay. And you need to do a copy of it, and you go there, you just put the rubber on it. So the rubber is a protective layer, then you add the armor, and then you take it away, and you can do the copies in your lab. Okay, so I would say it's enough for the hangout. Wow, how do I exit from here?
Finish, you never escape from it.
Okay. Okay, so now we will record. I will try to record the action and put it online later. Thank you. Bye-bye.